Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Olivia Jewel Love, and here's what Denver's talking about. All right, so today we're going to be diving into Governor Polis's fashion choices, his thoughts on socialism, and his doubling down on the Tina Peters decision, as well as what the drought means for fish, corn, and your neighbors. Adrian Felix, welcome back. How's it going?
Hello. Happy to have you, just me and you for an episode. I call you my comfort producer, so I'm super excited.
You have no idea how much that meant to me. I was like,
"Aw." I do. I think I've
sweet.
always felt comfortable with you. So
wow.
Definitely a compliment.
See, guys, I'm not a problem. Don't call HR on me. Look, I make someone comfortable. Anyway, so we're talking about one of our favorite topics to talk about together. As you know, some of our greatest Adrian Olivia hits are about this man. Some of you may know him as the governor of this state we are in, Colorado. Jared Polis, of course, is who I'm talking about. One of our shared interests, you as a hater, former friend, allegedly. I've yet to see the pics. Me as somewhat of a historian / stunned observer. I don't really know how else to say that. But over the past weekend, if you've been online, you've probably seen it, but Polis celebrated the state's 150th birthday, and he had donned a blue velvet jumpsuit. Adrian, thoughts? Well, I know I have some.
It's if you ever need anyone to break the stereotypes of what a gay man is and look at Jared Polis, because a stereotype is that we understand how to dress well, we understand fashion, we understand aesthetics, and this is the perfect example of what we mean when it's simply not true and that there's always an exception, because I actually like the outfit. It's the accessorizing that is the problem. Truthfully,
yes.
That he doesn't know what he's doing. He needed to be wearing a white shirt and different shoes, and it would have been fine.
I do want to break this down a little bit. So, audio format here. So he had on this blue velvet jumpsuit. It had some white fringe on it, kind of double-breasted silver buttons up it, red accents, kind of a Western flair to it. He had on a cowboy hat, of course. But then he did his signature Jared Polis thing where he wears sneakers. However, the sneakers are a shade of blue that is not the same shade of blue as the pantsuit.
Nope.
So it just, and it wasn't a complimentary kind of, it was wow, why did you do that? Who let you leave the house like that? But also, I saw on Twitter, people go for his neck on Twitter. And I saw somebody trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do, who knows, but they, I guess, grokked or AI'd or whatever, some high-heeled boots onto him instead of his sneakers. And honestly, I thought it was an upgrade. They were white high-heeled boots. And I was wait, they kind of cooked here. This
right,
maybe for next year.
I think it points to maybe our real beef is with Marlon, his husband, because he's the one who saw him before he left the house and doesn't go, babe, maybe something different, maybe this. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I did see some discourse on people saying he was digging through Marlon's closet. And I was well, that's kind of rude to the husband, frankly. But I mean, let's not act like there's not a whole team of people involved in this, cabinet. So I think that there's a lot of guilty parties at fault here, which obviously we could go off on his fashion choices all day. And if you want to talk that, you know where to find us. But let's get into the politics of it all. So last week, Polis sat down for an interview with CPR's Ryan Warner, which I thought was great. We'll link it in the show notes. And they covered a lot of ground in 25 minutes, I thought. And that conversation started with some talk about Governor Polis's comments on socialism. So he posted this comment, I guess, on Facebook originally, I think, and it kind of made the rounds on all the platforms. He posted this a couple weeks ago. The timing was pretty soon after Democratic Socialist backed candidate Malat Kuros won the Democratic primary in Denver over Diana DeGette, the 30-year incumbent. So I'll read you some of this post he made that kind of sparked some conversation. So A little bit of it goes like this. Socialism dangerously concentrates political and economic power together. Government should be an independent check on the private sector, not the owner of it and not controlled by it. And people are rightfully jaded that our country has not been able to deliver on basic things like universal health care, which every other wealthy capitalist country has. It's a frustration I shared when I voted for the Baby Steps Forward Affordable Care Act years ago in Congress, even though I felt like we deserved so much more. But fascism and socialism aren't the answer. Canada, Europe, Japan all have free universal healthcare, and none of them are socialist or fascist. We can do it here too. American flag emoji. So Ryan asked him in the interview if his comments on socialism and like alluding to this post was about Kuros or more of a quote Trojan horse to kind of gain ground in talking for like these on these conservative shows. Like he was on Fox News and Sean Hannity, I believe. I'm curious, Adrian, your thoughts on this.
Well, he also had commented that like it was a Trojan horse in the sense that he brought up that the Trump administration has been like buying stake in like certain, I guess, private sector things, and that's what the socialism that he was actually speaking about.
There's no question President Trump is socializing major sectors of the economy, particularly those related to the military, to materials. And here's the danger in that. The government needs to be a neutral regulator of the economy. They need to be the referee, right? They need to, of course, protect consumers, enforce antitrust. You can't be a player on the field and the referee at the same time.
I'm glad that like Ryan was really on top of it. I thought it was a great interview because he really did push back on some of the things that Jared would say. Because Jared's a very good politician in the sense that he doesn't always answer questions directly. But I think that the pivot towards like in the way that the question really was about the divisions that happen with like a Malat Kiros, who was obviously a democratic socialist in the city of Denver, compared to his politics. I don't think like he like specifically answered any of the questions about specifically that are like the divisions that are happening within the Democratic Party. He did a very good job of skirting all of it.
Yeah. Well, so like one of the things you and I were talking about when we were kind of chatting ideas about this was you told me that this made you think this was curtains, the end of his political career. And I want you to break it down for me. Why do you think that?
Well, I guess when I was listening, I was really expecting there to be more commentary on like the last few months of his tenure as governor, because he is done after this, like whether or not he runs for something. And I guess I was expecting it to be more of like, this is the end, but the evasiveness on some of the questions actually made me think, what is he running for? Like, is it actually over? Because to me, it should be. Like, one of the major points of contention, I think, in the interview was about Tina Peters and
yes, which we will get to.
Right, in that entire situation, where I think that for most constituents in the discourse that I've seen has said, like, this is it. Like, this is the bridge too far. I can't support this man after or anything after this.
So are you saying you think that you've changed your mind here? You think that maybe he's alluding to more?
I mean, he may run, like whether or not he gets the support, he certainly won't be getting mine.
What do you think he would have his eye on? Like something higher, something more national, or keep it local? What are you thinking?
Well, it's a great question, because I think that if a Democrat wins the presidency in 2 years, then obviously they will be receiving a plethora of resumes, and I wouldn't doubt that he would submit. But I think that for an elected position, that if he were, that like perhaps Senator Bennett, from losing this primary against Phil Weiser and his seat, shortly coming up, because he is still senator, that if he decides to retire, that lifts obviously an open seat and an election that I'm sure that if Jared Polis wanted to run for that seat, he has the money and power to do so. The question would be, would Coloradans, after, the 20 years of dealing with this man politically, would they support him in this moment post like the Tina Peters clemency?
And also thought. After Bennett's unsuccessful run for governor for the Democratic seat, it doesn't sound like he would have his blessing there based on some of the stuff he said on the campaign trail. But yeah, that is an interesting point. But you brought up the Tina Peters stuff. So that was a huge point in this interview as well.
Yes.
So Tina Peters, of course, is the former Mesa County elections clerk who was sentenced to 9 years in prison for breaching the Mesa County election system during a 2021 security update in an attempt to prove claims of election fraud that have been debunked.
Obviously, as you know, Tina Peters committed a crime and deserves to do the time consistent with what she did. Had she gotten a year or 2 years in prison or even 4 years in prison, which is what we commuted it to, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. But when they gave her 9 years, 7-year-old woman, probably seeing the last of her days in prison over a crime that did not threaten any ballots. People misunderstand what the crime is. It was after a municipal election. It was facilitating illegal access to a vote room for the purposes of backing up software to show alleged fallacies prior to it being updated. Stupid crime. She made a huge mistake, served 1 or 2 or 3 years in prison. And again, we just need to move forward.
He defended this being defended his reasoning of this being a stupid crime by essentially saying he was protecting free speech. That's very boiled down. We'll link the interview as well. But what do you think of his argument and his defending of choices here?
So I think in terms of, he commented that, the length of her sentence very much had to deal with the judge who made that determination based off of her words or, freedom of speech and the things that she was saying. But I don't think it's out of the question to have ever seen where we have someone who has been charged with a crime act out in court or disrespect a judge, and the judge using that as a determination for what the punishment should be. I also found it very fascinating that one of his reasoning was that he felt justified because after he did it, it became a partisan issue, which is something that I completely disagree with. In my understanding, he had even sat down with county clerks all over Colorado, many of whom are Republican, who told him not to do this. So it's I feel like the bulk of his argument is coming from the fact that he was censured by the Colorado Democratic Party, but he knows for a fact that it is simply not a partisan issue, that there are Republican elected officials who spoke out against this.
Yeah. Before we move on, anything else that really stood out to you from this interview?
The only thing that I wish that Ryan Warner had done was a little bit of a pushback on his answer about Gaza being divisive in the Democratic Party, is that I everyone's entitled to their opinion about foreign policy, which I certainly agree with him. But I really wish that Ryan would have asked him more specifically about Israel's part in the crisis that is happening in Gaza, because he certainly didn't mention it. That was my only critique. But I also wanted to give him his flowers for the section of the interview that dealt with Colorado being number one in education across the 50 states, which, him and the teachers and the staff that work our school districts deserve their flowers for that moment.
Great. Well, you know how to reach us on the Polis Fashion Monstrosity hotline. That's 720-500-5418. We're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, fish. And we're back. The next topic. It's dry as hell. I think we all knew that. And it's hot. We're recording this and it's a little bit less hot today. So thank you for that, forces that be. But something that I'm very interested in, maybe a couple other people, hopefully, that are listening to this are also, multiple reservoirs have already been drained during this extreme drought to supply water to different areas of the state. And as we know, more are being added to the list. But something I've talked about on the show before is what happens to the fish in those reservoirs. And God. So disclaimer here, there are a lot of names of reservoirs and valleys and rivers and things that are hard for me to pronounce. So I'm going to do my best. My producer, Lizzie Goldsmith, has given me pronouncers, and I am trying my best to pronounce them correctly. So if I mess up, please, it's not on purpose. I'm just trying
Give us
my
a little
best.
grace.
We're doing our best out here. So, in Huerfano County, CPW just announced an emergency public fish salvage at Degra Reservoir in Wahatoya State Wildlife Area. That was, I think we did okay there. That was a lot. Basically, that means anyone with a valid fishing license can go nuts and fish to their heart's content. And the size, bag, and possession limits on fish are suspended during this emergency salvage. Adrian, you fish?
So it's a funny question. So my grandfather actually passed away about a month and a half ago, and he taught me how to fish when I was a kid. The thing is that as a kid, I hated sitting around waiting for something to bite. So the thing is, I think as an adult, that if I can go fishing and like enjoy an adult beverage and like chat with my friends, that I may as well like be able to do it. But like it's been decades since I've gone fishing. So I'm going to say no, but I wish I were.
And you can. And, it sounds like there's an opportunity for you to get some dinner here. There's no limits. Right? So, like, usually you have to check, local regulations and stuff. There's usually limits on, like, size and how many pounds of fish you can take. But at some of these reservoirs that they are draining, they want to salvage these fish. And they're like, basically, go nuts, take as many as you can before we have to drain this. So, I thought this quote by Carrie Tucker, the CPW aquatic biologist, to 9 News was really interesting. She said, "The fish belong to the public, and we want to provide anglers the opportunity to harvest as many fish as possible before declining water levels potentially cause us to lose the fishery." And so I kind of forgot about that. I mean, like, obviously that's true. Like, we pay, our tax dollars. That's your fish, girl. Like,
that's
go get
your
it.
Fish. Well, and I want to say too that the one stipulation that they had that was like for the fishing license that you had to be 16 years and older.
Children can fish for free.
Really? Is that the
Yes.
Okay,
That's
good.
most states, yeah.
Interesting. I thought that part was super interesting, but yes, like as a taxpayer, you should like actually just like totally be taking advantage. But obviously there's like the larger context here of the way that this drought and like the lack of snow that we had last winter has like this is like the true impact, right? Like I feel like we knew it was coming in winter, but this is like what it actually looks like.
Well, so moving on from the fish, another part that's really important to Coloradans as a whole is the fish are not the only ones struggling and needing for water. So farmers are too. So most municipal water users can't access this reservoir storage during droughts like we're seeing from them draining these, but agricultural users often can't. So the beloved Olathe sweet corn purveyors who grow it in Montrose near the Uncompahgre Valley have said the harvest is going to be smaller than usual. Also, please forgive me on the pronunciation there. I'm listening to Kyle Clark's pronunciation. We're trying our best. But Adrian, what do you think? Like, how are people going to react to when we're actually seeing this realized as less food on our shelves in our grocery stores?
I mean, I can imagine that they're not going to be happy. And then I also think about what it does in terms of the pricing when you have less of a product, like how that impacts, I guess, the need and the pricing of it. But I also think that, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, was that like these were the impacts that we knew were coming and we're just seeing it realized, I guess. So what I would hope is that like we would have like some level of like grace to understand that like these are the consequences of climate change and what happens when we just don't get the snow or rainfall that we need.
Yeah, and I think you're right there because one of the big purveyors of Olathe sweet corn, tuxedo corn. Ooh. I love it. Corn's kind of wearing a little tuxedo with its like husk, Think about it. Okay, they're not even going to send their corn to Kroger like they usually do. So they're actually going back to their direct-to-consumer model of driving around a corn truck with pre-packed boxes of corn. So, I mean, as much as I want to like romanticize the corn truck,
sure, totally. Like that. Like, that's exactly
I kind of
what I was going to say.
Want to romanticize the corn truck. I'm not going to lie, but I do realize this is a problem. Like,
no, totally.
Do you think people are going to bite? Are they? Do you think other people are going to romanticize the corn truck? Also to add in here, they're also selling online. Keeping up with the times. 2 dozen fresh ears of corn for $30.
Hey.
Luxury mail order corn? Like, what are we
Ooh.
thinking?
Well, I think you've like totally hit the nail on the head because I do feel that that is like a very Colorado experience. It's like the vendor on the road that has the truck
Yes.
that you like stop and you get to know
Yeah.
your community, you get to know growers, and it feels like very home. Like it just does. So I totally see that, and I think that like many Coloradans would absolutely agree that there is like some level of romanticization of that.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm like, I understand, but it's like, let's make the most of what we have. I don't know. The like ever optimist here, I guess. So I don't know. If you get corn from a truck, send me a pic. I want to see it. But bringing it back to our backyard, Denver Water has
Mm.
not reached its goal of decreasing resident water usage by 20%. We've hit 5%,
Mm.
but maybe a new record. 4,700 complaints from what I've been calling the water narc hotline, where you can tell on your neighbors for breaking the rules. Where do you think things went wrong here? Is it too damn hot, or do we love our grass too much?
It's such a good question because so this was covered, I want to say maybe a month ago when I sat down with Paul Caroli and Sterling Sims. And this was a story that I had brought forth because it was a win of the week because I thought it was great that we could like tattle on our neighbors because as you know, I am CityCast's Denver's 2025 Hater of the Year. And this was like, I felt like a fantastic opportunity for neighbors to snitch and just be but with that said, it's obviously for good reason, right? Like if we believe that our neighbors are not really showing respect to the community and the state at large, who is seeing wildfires, who is dealing with this drought, we've like certainly gone over the impacts today of what this what a drought does to our state. I'm not surprised by our neighbors, and that's just Denver, 4,700.
Did you use the hotline?
I
You
did
were so
not.
jazzed.
No. So in
Are
my
you keeping
neighborhood,
yourself anonymous to protect yourself?
oh no, I would tell you because that's a
You'd
very
probably name them.
juicy.
You'd name them and sign your name, wouldn't you?
Listen, on this podcast, maybe I would be giving names, but unfortunately, I live in a neighborhood that is surrounded by like a lot of buildings, like taller buildings. So there's like
Okay.
really not a lot of grassy areas in which like I see sprinkling happening. So no, like, but it's only because I'm not in an area where I could.
Well, I can say I did my part. I let all my plants on my balcony die.
Well,
I don't think that really counts. And it also wasn't really intentional. I'm just not, it's so hot here. I just don't realize how much you actually have to like pay attention to the stuff on your balcony. They all became crispy, but the grass at my apartment is brown. So nobody has to narc on me. You're welcome. But I love this little report from Kyle Clark and Mark Salinger at 9 News. They found out that 4 fines have been issued by Denver Water for breaking the rules. And Denver Water would not reveal the identities to 9, but they told them that 2 of the 4 fines were to single family homes. And the fines range from $250 to $1,000. So if that's you, wow. Juicy lawn. That is a
juicy lawn.
That is a juicy lawn. And also, if you want to narc on your neighbors or like narc on yourself or anything, like this is just a narc hotline in general, and I would love to hear any grievances. So 720-500-5418. Please just like tell me what's happening in your neighborhood, looking out your window, peeking through the curtains. What are people doing? Always want to hear it.
But I guess my question is, after you saying that, is how much time was actually spent investigating these allegations? Because and maybe that's a question that maybe any city worker or someone who works for a Denver Water could like tell us. I would love to know about what that process looks like, because how do you decide if this is like, oh, this person just hates their neighbor?
I would like to know that too. Is it boots on the ground, or are they just like flying a drone over and being like, yeah, that looks a little too green? So yeah, if you know, let us know. But anyway, Adrian, this has been lovely.
It went by real fast, but like I said, it's because we really enjoy each other, Olivia.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Also, please stick around for a sponsored conversation with host Bree Davies and Kelsey Simpkins, the Communications and Programs Manager over at the Regional Air Quality Council.
Hey, Bree here with Kelsey Simpkins, Communications and Programs Manager at the Regional Air Quality Council. Kelsey, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Thanks for having me, Bree.
So, for people who might be hearing about ground level ozone for like the first time, what exactly is it, and why is it such a stubborn problem here on the Front Range specifically?
The simplest answer to that is ground level ozone is a form of air pollution. It is tricky because it is invisible and odorless. So, in contrast to wildfire smoke, you can't necessarily see it or smell it to know if it's a bad air day. It does contribute to, things like smog or some of that haze that we'll see sometimes around the Front Range, but it's not actually visible and you can't smell it. So it is kind of sneaky, but it is our most pressing air pollution problem here in the summer months. We have a large population that lives here in the Front Range, of course, and we have the perfect weather conditions. So we have a lot of days in the summer where it's really hot, sunny, and what I call perfect pool weather, where it's like 80, 90 degrees. All you want to do is cool off outside. And that's the perfect conditions for these emissions to combine in the air and sort of bake basically in the sunlight and the heat of our amazing summer days. And then the wind and the weather trap it here. So often the worst ground level ozone levels are found along the foothills. So in Chatfield, Golden, Boulder, and all the way up to Fort Collins.
So the American Lung Association apparently compares exposure to this ground level ozone to a sunburn inside your lungs, which is a pretty alarming image. What are the health concerns for people on a high ozone day, and who should be concerned the most?
Yeah, it's a super tangible way to think about what it's doing to your body. So based on people's health, like you noted, folks who have asthma or other respiratory conditions are at the most risk of impacts from ozone. And the other groups that are impacted are children, as they're usually outside a lot in the summer, running around, breathing heavily. Their lungs are also still developing. And kids can also have more asthma.
So, I understand it affects all of us, but I can see where it could be specifically for certain folks really a problem. How do we know? How are people supposed to know when it's a high ozone day?
So there are some telltale signs, but we will also tell you. So there's a lot of groups here in Colorado, including us here at the Regional Air Quality Council and Simple Steps Better Air, who send out alerts on things that are called ozone action days. And so these are forecasts that the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment does. And they push those out also to a lot of weather apps. And it's kind of your choice how you want to get that information, in the most timely, useful way to you, whether it is through your weather app, whether you want to go directly check something called the Air Quality Index, which is that color-coded system some people really like to use, or if you want to sign up for alerts directly from the state, or you can sign up for alerts from us.
Okay, so your program is called Simple Steps Better Air. What are the most impactful things someone in Denver can actually do this summer, both to protect their own health and to help reduce emissions overall?
So if you are more sensitive to air pollution and ozone, we do recommend the best option is to stay indoors on those peak hours. Ozone builds up over the course of the day, and so it's highest in the afternoons when it's also really hot out. So you can kind of avoid both of those things at the same time, stay inside, turn the AC on. If you want to be outdoors, of course, in the summer, a lot of us love to do that. We do recommend people strategize a little bit and get out for that run or that bike ride in the morning when ozone levels are going to be typically lower, again, because it builds up over the course of the day. If you want to be really active, swap your outdoor activity for an indoor activity that day.
So before we wrap up, you've kind of mentioned this, but I would love to know more about how folks listening right now can sign up for these ozone alerts that you all do. And also, tell me about this awesome electric lawn equipment discount that I keep hearing about, but is expiring at the end of this year.
You can sign up for free summer ozone alerts, text or email from Simple Steps Better Air and the Regional Air Quality Council at our website, and that is simplestepsbetterair.org. Or if you just want to sign up right now, that is a text to 21,000. That's 21 and 3 zeros. And the keyword there is Better Air CO. For that lawn and garden discount that you mentioned, Bree, I have some good news on that. That has likely just been extended. So at the start of the summer, it was going to only run through the end of 2026, but recently a bill was signed to extend that for a couple more years. But we still encourage people to not delay, because the sooner you start going electric with your lawn equipment, the sooner you benefit. So that is a 30% discount at point of sale statewide at participating retailers. So we do recommend you go online or call in advance to confirm you're going to get that amazing discount. And there's no rebate, nothing you have to mail in or anything. It's just a straight up discount at the counter.
We've switched to like native plants and wild grasses, but we still needed a weed whacker, and the electric one is awesome. So good to know. Folks can do that right now if they'd like. Kelsey, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me.
Thanks for having me, Bree.
To learn more and sign up for free summer ozone alerts, head to simplestepsbetterair.org or text BetterAirCO to 21000. And hey, don't forget, go get that 30% off electric lawn equipment at participating retailers statewide. Thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell your neighbor with a suspiciously green lawn about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at CityCast Denver, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. You can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Denver neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See ya!
You have like a hyper like sensation when it comes to smells is like weird to me.
I have a
Those are two things
because I said Denver's stinky.
Yeah, because I just those are two things
I thought
that
you were
I would,
commenting
like,
on my
never say.
cheekbones. I was like, yeah, okay.